Hi guys, and welcome to Mental Mondays. So this week, I had gotten a request a little while back for a video talking about the price of IVF with egg donation and kind of what information we had been told. I thought I would turn that into a Mental Monday by just talking about the overall cost of infertility. There are a lot of different sacrifices and different costs of infertility when you are diagnosed, when you're going through treatment. Once you have a successful IVF cycle and you're pregnant, there are a lot of costs of it, and there's a lot of toll it takes on you, on your spouse, on your marriage, on a lot of things. So the first cost of infertility is expectations. All of your expectations have to be thrown out the window because you don't know how it's gonna go. And you don't have control over any of the things you want to be able to make it better, to be able to make things happen the way you want them to. Things just are not going to go the way you always dreamed about. And there could be even more of that comes to light as you go through the treatment process, and you might have to switch how you plan on doing things even more than you originally thought. The second way infertility costs is in your mental health. And that can come in a lot of different ways, but I read an article the other day that talked about the connection between infertility and anxiety, depression, fearfulness. All of that can take such a toll on you, and I know for me that did bring some of that out as far as how are we even gonna do this? And this was not how I was expecting things to go. The third way infertility costs is time. You don't get the luxury of having things happen quickly the same way. You don't get the luxury of, oh, you have time to have kids. It can be a long, long process. So it's not always gonna be that quickly. And you have to think about that. And that's something that is working against you the entire time. The other way time costs is doctors. You have to see so many doctors to get through the process that you have so much time taken up by treatments, by doctor's appointments, by doing the shots of the hormones at home, and all of that is just so time consuming, and it can be a demanding schedule. And if you are trying on your own first, it takes a lot of time and work to clock your cycles, to take your temperature, to take ovulation tests, track your ovulation, do all of those things, and then time trying perfectly to be able to try to have it work. So much of this can take so much time. The fourth way infertility costs is your energy. I felt so drained and so paralyzed after that doctor's appointment where we got all of that information. I didn't even know what to do with myself. I literally just came home and worked on putting the apartment back together because we had just moved everything around. My brain had no more energy to think about any of it. We got thrown so much information. There was so much to process. It was draining, and not to mention all of the doctor's appointments I had, and I still have more coming up for different parts of it that we're not starting right now, but that the doctor wants to do. It's training. It's a lot. And I mean, I think it's been 3 weeks since we got the confirmation of my infertility, and I'm still not through processing it. I'm still not over it, and I don't know that I ever will be. But it can be such a draining thing, and it's such a big thing that it's a lot to handle. So I have noticed my energy level definitely affected by it. The fifth and final, but most certainly not least way in which infertility costs is money. I don't know how often this is actually talked about in infertility videos on YouTube, but IVF or IUI or egg donation or any of that, any of the infertility treatment are very, very, very expensive. This was the part that I got a specific request for, And so I will just kind of put out there what I know. I would love to do some more research on it. So the price that I was given when I went to the doctor, the way he explained the procedure that he wanted to do with me was they would have a live egg donor, get us both synced in our cycles, be preparing me and my body to receive the embryo, and she would be preparing to produce the eggs. He said they would take as many as they could. He said we would only use one egg at a time. And so if we wanted to go through the same process to have more children, we would have any of the eggs left. They would all be ours that we didn't use the first time. The price for all of the egg donation stuff is the heaviest. There's a $10,000 egg donor fee. There's all of the medicine, all of the hormones for both me and her. There's all of the procedures, both to get them from her and to put them in me, and all of the doctor's appointments to do all of that. Then there's the actual IVF. There's getting the embryo prepared and the whole procedure of putting it into me and all the doctor's appointments and all of that. He said the way we would do it, if we did do it that way, there's a 70% chance of success, and he would expect it to work. He said he wants to do some more health testing on me to make sure of those health risks that I mentioned I would have. But he said he would expect me to pass, and he said, given my medical history, he would expect me to be somebody he would feel comfortable with moving forward with it. But none of the cheaper options, like getting eggs from a bank instead of a live donor, none of the cheaper versions of any of the process he does. He was a doctor that really understood my situation, was really great to work with, was just super nice, and I was a little saddened by not being able to do any cheaper versions of it with him. But I know that's the best way to do it in my mind. I know that's the most success rate. That's what makes the most sense logically. But the price tag was between $30,000 and $40,000 just for the first one. Just the first initial time is $30,000 to $40,000 for what our process was going to be, or is going to be, is. I don't even know the answer to that question. And then if we were to come back, because we got the egg donation part of it done, it would go down to $5,000 to just do the IVF cycle. The cheaper versions can bring that down $10,000 maybe at a time, maybe $5,000. Taking the donor fee, sometimes the donors just waive the fee, so that's $5,000 to $10,000. That's off. That's still $30,000 to $35,000 highest. I think frozen eggs versus a live donor is the same amount off. It would only be between $5,000 and $10,000 cheaper, which in the grand scheme of things, especially for the success rate, is not that helpful for affording it. On the opposite side of that is adoption. Adoption is definitely a choice that me and Andrew have talked about. That is pricey and can be a long process as well. Depending on the way you do it, it can be very pricey depending on what type of agency you do it through. It can be a long process. It can be a long waiting process. I haven't actually heard as many prices for adoption. I have heard between $10,000 to $15,000 for one can be normal. I've seen people wait over a year to find a child through adoption. And there are private adoption facilitators, organizations that just facilitate that whole process for you that may be a little cheaper, may not, depending on the organization. I actually have a family friend that runs a private adoption organization. They do come with a lot of emotional baggage and sometimes some pretty intense trauma that you would want to be prepared to deal with them, because they need the capability of working through it if they're going to heal from it. On top of, they come with a lot of volatility. In the foster care system, you can have kids taken back from you because their parents decide they want their kids back and they did what they needed to get them back. And the same goes for adoption. And I think that's like the one little piece of it that scares me, is in the adoption process, there is an opportunity for the birth parents to change their mind and say, you know what, we can't do this. we're not going to do it. At the very last minute, without warning, I've heard a lot of stories of couples that have gotten to the point of the mom had the baby. Like they were doing an infant adoption immediately from birth, and the mom had the baby, and the parents decided that they just could not go through with adopting their child out, and the couple was kind of just left to deal with that. So those are things I would think about. Those are some things that we are kind of thinking about and processing. I know I am. So I hope this video helped you in some way. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and share it with all of your friends. Get the information out there to help others. And if you are not already subscribed, click subscribe so you can see when the next video comes out. And I'll see you guys in that one. Bye!